Ladies and gentle, today I want to talk about something that can change the way we approach relationships both online and in our everyday lives, the importance of not sharing everything about your personal life with just anyone. We live in a world that encourages us to be open, to be transparent, to share our stories far and wide. And while there is undeniable power in vulnerability, there is also power and discretion, the ability to protect our most sacred parts, to preserve our inner world from being scattered to the winds. It might seem like an odd thing to suggest in a culture where oversharing is often seen as the path to connection, but the truth is, not everyone deserves to know your story. Not everyone has earned the right to hold the weight of your experiences. Let me ask you this, what does it mean to you to have a boundary? A boundary is not a wall, it's a form of self-respect. It's a decision to say, this part of me is precious and not for everyone to see. And just like a garden, there are parts of your soul that need nurturing and protection before you can ever share them with others. Here's the thing, vulnerability is a strength, but it's not the same thing as exposure. You can be vulnerable with people who have earned that trust, people who will handle your heart with care. But exposure, sharing too much too soon with the wrong people, can lead to harm. It can leave you feeling empty, drained, misunderstood. There's a myth we often buy into that authenticity requires us to share every detail, to wear our lives like an open book. But authenticity is not about sharing everything. Authenticity is about sharing with intention, with wisdom, and with boundaries. It's about knowing that authentic connection comes from shared trust, not oversharing. Real intimacy is built slowly over time, and it thrives in environments of mutual respect, not one-sided vulnerability. We must remember that not everyone is worthy of access to your personal life. In fact, many people will never understand or appreciate the sacredness of your experiences. That's okay. You don't owe your full self to everyone you meet. The beauty of a truly connected relationship is in the quality, not the quantity, of the sharing. This is where the rise of social media complicates things. With the swipe of a finger, we can share intimate details of our lives with the world. But what happens when that line between personal and public becomes blurred? We lose something. We lose our power, our agency, and our sense of safety. Oversharing on social media can make us feel more exposed than seen, more disconnected than connected. We can get lost in the endless cycle of validation, seeking approval, and opening ourselves up to judgment or critique. The real question is, does that make us feel more whole or more hollow? In the same breath, I want to acknowledge something crucial. Discretion is not selfish, it's self-respect. By holding certain parts of your life close to you, you are honoring your own worth, your own right to peace, and your own right to protection. You are saying, I value this part of me too much to give it away freely. You are saying, I'm enough just as I am, and I don't need to justify my existence or my experiences to anyone. The reality is that oversharing can become a burden. It can lead to unwanted judgment, unsolicited advice, or worse, the feeling that you're just one more story in a sea of noise. There's a delicate balance between being open and being vulnerable, and feeling exposed to the wrong people can leave you feeling exhausted, unprotected, and even alone. Trust is key. We can only share our deepest selves with those who have earned that trust through consistent actions, through empathy, understanding, and respect. Trust is not freely given, it's built piece by piece over time, and that's what makes it so valuable. So I encourage you today, find strength in silence. Some of the most profound moments of healing come from holding certain things within. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a choice to protect your energy, your story, and your peace of mind. There is power in choosing when and where to share, and with whom. You don't need to share your entire self with anyone. You have the power to decide who gets access to your heart, your story, your boundaries, your emotions. They are yours, and you get to protect them. Choose wisely, choose consciously, and choose with love. The concept of boundaries is often misunderstood. We think of boundaries as walls, impenetrable barriers that keep people out, as though protecting ourselves means isolating ourselves. But true boundaries aren't about shutting people out or building walls. They're about creating space for what truly matters, and just as importantly, protecting ourselves from what doesn't. Boundaries are the unsung heroes of our emotional well-being. They are the invisible lines we draw to protect our hearts, minds, and souls. Without them, we can easily lose ourselves in the demands of others, in the chaos of the world, or in the constant pressure to be everything to everyone. In reality, boundaries are a form of self-respect, a way to honor our own needs, our energy, and our sense of self. Imagine you're walking through a beautiful garden. It's lush, vibrant, and alive with color, but there's a fence around it. Not a tall, aggressive fence, but a gentle one that allows people to look in, admire, and even ask to enter, but they can't come in without your permission. This is what your boundaries do for you. They allow others to see and appreciate the beauty you hold within, but they don't give everyone access to it. They protect your most precious parts from being trampled on or taken for granted. Without boundaries, we can get lost. We start saying yes when we mean no because we don't want to disappoint others. We give without ever considering whether we have anything left to give in return. We let people invade our time, our emotions, and our mental space. And eventually we start to feel drained, exhausted, and disconnected from our own needs and desires. But setting boundaries isn't always easy, especially in a world that often encourages us to say yes to everything, to constantly please others, and to make ourselves small so that others can feel comfortable. It takes courage to say, I need this for myself, I can't be everything to everyone, and that's okay. It takes strength to prioritize your own well-being over the fear of letting someone down. But when you learn to draw clear, healthy boundaries, you begin to reclaim your energy and your sense of peace. Boundaries don't have to be dramatic or rigid. They don't require us to cut people off or withdraw from the world. They're simply a way of saying, this is what I will allow in my life and this is what I won't. It could mean saying no to a social invitation when you're exhausted or stepping back from a conversation that feels too draining. It could mean not answering a phone call when you're in the middle of something important or refusing to engage in gossip that doesn't serve your peace of mind. What's so beautiful about boundaries is that they're a form of self-care, and self-care is a radical act of love for yourself. You're saying, I am worthy of respect. I am worthy of my own time. I am worthy of my own peace. And when you set boundaries, you teach the people around you how to treat you. You show them what you value and what you won't tolerate. And most importantly, you're teaching yourself that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. But we often hesitate to set boundaries because we fear being perceived as selfish, harsh, or unkind. We worry that by saying no, we're letting people down or that we'll push others away. But the truth is, when we set clear, compassionate boundaries, we are not rejecting people. We're rejecting behavior that doesn't align with our values. We're rejecting the idea that we have to sacrifice ourselves in order to make others happy. And if someone truly values you, they will understand and respect your boundaries. In fact, they will admire your strength and self-respect. Boundaries are the foundation of healthy relationships. They teach us how to love and respect ourselves while honoring the people we care about. They help us protect our time, our energy, and our emotional health. And the more we practice setting boundaries, the more we will feel empowered to live authentically, with integrity and confidence. When we honor our own needs, we begin to create space for the things that truly matter. We create room for the relationships, passions, and dreams that give us joy and fulfillment. And we make space for peace within ourselves and peace in our interactions with others. So I ask you to consider this. What do your boundaries look like? Are you protecting your inner world with the same care that you would protect a treasure? Are you giving yourself permission to say no when it's necessary, to say yes to your own well-being, and to step away from things that drain you? If you haven't been honoring your boundaries, today is the perfect day to start. Reclaim that power, because when you stand firm in your boundaries, you not only protect yourself, you create the space to fully show up in the world as your true, authentic self. And that, my friends, is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and to everyone around you. Vulnerability is often celebrated as a powerful and essential part of our human experience. We hear the word and immediately we think of openness, of raw honesty, of showing up as our true selves. But vulnerability is not the same thing as exposure, and it's crucial that we understand the difference if we're to protect our hearts while also embracing the courage to be seen. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. In a world that rewards instant connection and often thrives on the quick exchange of personal information, it's easy to get caught up in the idea that to be vulnerable means to share every detail of your life with the world. It's as though there's a pressure to wear your heart on your sleeve, to open up about your struggles, your wounds, your deep secrets, all in the name of connection and authenticity. But here's the truth: being vulnerable does not mean revealing everything to everyone. True vulnerability is not about exposure, it's about having the courage to show up in our full humanity, to be seen for who we are without the need for perfection. It's about letting ourselves be known by the people who are worthy of that trust. And that distinction matters deeply. When we confuse vulnerability with exposure, we risk opening ourselves up to the wrong people in the wrong ways. Exposure is unfiltered, it's oversharing, it's letting down your guard in environments or with people who aren't ready or willing to handle your heart with care. Exposure can leave you feeling raw and unprotected. It can leave you vulnerable to judgment, rejection, or worse, betrayal. Exposure says, here's my pain, my heart, my life, take it or leave it. But there's a deep sense of emptiness when the only response is indifference or criticism. True vulnerability, however, is different. Vulnerability is a choice. It's the decision to share our fears, our flaws, and our desires with people who have earned our trust, people who've shown through their actions that they can hold space for us. Vulnerability means showing up without the armor, without pretending to have it all figured out, without hiding behind the walls of perfection or defense. It's saying, this is me, flawed, uncertain, imperfect, and I am enough, just as I am. But here's where the beauty of vulnerability comes in. It's not about showing every part of yourself to everyone. Vulnerability is about sharing what's true for you in the right context with the right people. It's about being selective with who gets access to the deepest parts of your soul, because not everyone is equipped to handle the tenderness of our hearts. When you're truly vulnerable, you're not looking for validation or approval, you're looking for connection, real, meaningful, authentic connection. You share because you trust that the person on the other end can meet you where you are, with empathy and understanding, without judgment or exploitation. And the beauty of that kind of connection is that it doesn't demand anything from you other than your honesty. Vulnerability is the space where we allow ourselves to be seen in our entirety without shame. It's where we allow ourselves to be imperfect without the fear of being criticized. It's where we get to be human with all the messiness and beauty that comes with it. But exposure, on the other hand, is about giving pieces of yourself to anyone who will listen without knowing if they can truly hold it. Exposure is about being seen but not necessarily understood. Vulnerability, however, is about being truly known in a way that builds connection and fosters trust. Think about the people who've been most meaningful to you in your life, the people you truly connect with. I can almost guarantee that the deepest bonds you share with others are built on the foundation of vulnerability, not the constant sharing of every personal detail, but rather the willingness to show up as your true self, knowing that the other person has earned the privilege to see you fully. Those relationships are built on trust, on mutual respect, and on the understanding that vulnerability is a gift, not something to be exploited. What we need to remember is that when we expose ourselves to the wrong people or in the wrong circumstances, we risk being misunderstood, hurt, or dismissed. Our stories are sacred. Our emotions are precious. And when we expose them to people who have not earned the privilege of handling them with care, we risk feeling betrayed or abandoned. But when we are truly vulnerable with those who show us the same level of care, it opens the door to the deepest and most transformative kinds of relationships. The power of vulnerability comes from the fact that it's rooted in choice, in intention, and in trust. It's the willingness to say, this is me, imperfect, messy, and real, and I trust you enough to show you these pieces of myself. But exposure is different. Exposure happens when we give pieces of ourselves away indiscriminately, when we reveal things about ourselves without knowing whether the person on the other end can appreciate the weight of what we've shared. So ask yourself, am I being vulnerable or am I exposing myself? Am I sharing something because I trust the person on the other side to handle it with care, or am I sharing it because I'm looking for a quick sense of validation? Am I allowing myself to be truly known, or am I simply hoping someone will accept me based on an incomplete picture? The truth is, vulnerability can be one of the most freeing and transformative experiences of our lives, but only when it's practiced with discernment, with care, and with the understanding that not everyone deserves access to our deepest selves. When we practice vulnerability with intention, it allows us to connect in ways that are meaningful, healing, and empowering. It reminds us that being seen and heard for who we truly are is one of the greatest gifts we can offer ourselves and others. So let's embrace the power of vulnerability not as a tool for exposure, but as an act of courage, a commitment to showing up as we are, and a promise to protect the sacredness of our stories by sharing them with those who truly see us. Because vulnerability, when practiced wisely, is what connects us to one another in the most profound ways. Our inner world is where our truest self lives, the place where our dreams, our fears, our passions, our pain, and our potential all coexist. It's the core of who we are, the place where our essence resides. And yet, in the rush of daily life, in the constant pull to connect, to achieve, to be seen, we can forget just how precious and sacred this inner space really is. We can let it become cluttered, overwhelmed by the noise and demands of the outside world, or worse, we can expose it to the wrong people, allowing them to step in and disrupt what should remain a place of peace and strength. Protecting your inner world isn't about hiding or building walls, it's about safeguarding the parts of you that are most vulnerable, most tender, most worthy of care. It's about understanding that not everything and not everyone should have access to your heart and mind. It's about being discerning with where you invest your energy and who you allow to influence the way you see yourself. Because when we don't protect this inner sanctuary, we risk losing touch with our own truth. We risk forgetting who we are and what we stand for. The world is full of distractions, noise, and opinions everywhere you look. Someone is telling you who you should be, what you should want, how you should feel. Social media bombards us with endless comparisons, with curated images of lives that seem better than our own. Workplaces, relationships, and even society at large can pressure us to perform, to fit into roles, to be something other than our authentic selves. If we're not careful, this constant barrage of external input can cause us to lose our sense of direction, to forget the quiet wisdom of our own hearts. Protecting your inner world is about setting boundaries around what you take in, what you allow to influence your thoughts, and who you allow to shape your emotions. It's about deciding what you want to nurture inside yourself and what you want to keep out. Just like you wouldn't let just anyone into your home, you shouldn't let just anyone into your heart. You wouldn't invite a stranger to rummage through your personal belongings, and you shouldn't invite negative energy, toxic people, or destructive influences to rummage through your thoughts and emotions. But it's not just about what you protect from, it's also about what you protect for. You protect your inner world so that it has the space to grow, to heal, to evolve. Our inner world is like a garden. If we neglect it, if we let it become overrun with weeds or overexposed to harsh elements, it won't flourish. But when we tend to it with care, when we feed it with love, positivity, and wisdom, it blooms. It becomes a place where we can find clarity, peace, and strength no matter what is happening around us. And in that place of inner stillness and growth, we can tap into our creativity, our power, and our resilience. The more we protect our inner world, the more we come to realize that it is not something that exists outside of us or depends on the approval of others. It is ours to nurture, to cultivate, to shape into something that reflects who we truly are, not who others want us to be. It's not always easy to protect this inner sanctum, especially when the world around us is noisy, demanding, and full of people who want a piece of us. But when we begin to practice the art of protection, we start to realize that we don't have to give pieces of ourselves away to everyone we encounter. We don't have to be constantly available, constantly on, constantly accommodating. There's a quiet power that comes from knowing what you need to preserve in order to stay whole. It's the ability to say no without guilt, to step back without shame, to protect your peace without apology. In a world that often demands more than we can give, knowing when to protect your inner world is one of the most empowering choices you can make. And here's the thing, when we protect our inner world, we are not being selfish. We are doing the opposite. We are giving ourselves the strength, the clarity, and the energy we need to show up in the world as our truest selves. When we take the time to protect ourselves, we create the capacity to be there for others, not from a place of depletion, but from a place of abundance. The beauty of protecting your inner world is that it doesn't require isolation. It doesn't mean cutting people out or withdrawing from life. In fact, when we protect our inner world, we're able to engage with life more fully, more present, and more aligned with our purpose. We can have deep, meaningful connections with others, but only when we've taken the time to nourish and protect what's inside. When we allow ourselves to be fully grounded in who we are, we become a beacon for others. We begin to attract people who resonate with our energy, people who respect our boundaries, people who see us for who we truly are. There's also a beautiful kind of resilience that comes with protecting your inner world. The storms of life are inevitable. There will be times when you face hardship, when your beliefs are challenged, when your heart is broken, or when you question your path. But if you've taken the time to protect your inner world, to create a space where you can center yourself, where you can connect with your truth, you will find that you can weather any storm. You will have the strength to rebuild, to grow, and to move forward. We don't have to be constantly exposed to the chaos around us. We don't have to take on the weight of the world or allow others' energy to dictate how we feel. We have the power to choose what we take in and what we keep out. And when we protect our inner world, we open up the possibility for a life that is more aligned with who we are, a life that is full of purpose, joy, and peace. So take a moment and ask yourself, what does your inner world need right now? What is it asking for you to protect? What are the things that drain your energy, that disturb your peace, that keep you from showing up as your truest self? And what are the things that nourish you, that help you stay grounded, that allow you to step into your power? Protecting your inner world is not about locking yourself away from the world. It's about giving yourself the space to thrive, to grow, and to be the person you were always meant to be. When you do that, everything else will begin to fall into place. There is a powerful truth that often gets lost in the hustle of trying to connect with others. Not everyone deserves access to you. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to be open, to be vulnerable, to share our lives freely. But what if we told you that not everyone who crosses your path deserves to know your deepest fears, your wildest dreams, or your truest self? What if we embrace the idea that some parts of you are sacred, meant to be shared only with those who have earned the privilege of being part of your inner circle? We often hear about the importance of vulnerability and openness, how being transparent is the key to connection. And while there is beauty in sharing our hearts with others, it's just as important to recognize that authentic connection isn't about giving everyone access to every part of you. It's about choosing wisely who gets to know the true you, the messy, complicated, unfiltered version of yourself. Not everyone has the ability or the emotional maturity to handle the weight of your story. Not everyone is equipped to hold the tender parts of you that you've worked so hard to protect and nurture. Think about it, when you meet someone, you don't automatically give them the keys to your house, your bank account, or your most treasured possessions, right? Why then would you give away the most precious parts of yourself, your time, your energy, your emotions, without considering the impact it may have? Your heart, your mind, your spirit, they are sacred, and not everyone deserves access to them. Some people may not value them, some may not understand them, some might even take advantage of them. That's why being discerning about who you allow into your inner world is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect you can practice. It's not about being closed off or guarded. It's about being intentional with your energy and your vulnerability. You get to choose who is worthy of receiving your truth with your love and your trust. When we don't set these boundaries, we risk oversharing or giving away parts of ourselves to people who are not capable of handling them with care. Maybe it's someone who is not emotionally safe, or someone whose actions don't align with their words. Or perhaps it's someone who is only interested in what they can get from you without offering anything in return. Those people are not meant to be entrusted with your deepest self. This doesn't mean we need to be cynical or dismissive of others, but it does mean we must honor our worth. We must recognize that there are relationships that deserve our attention, our time, and our love, and then there are relationships that should be given a more limited, cautious space. It's not about being selfish, it's about protecting your energy. When we give our best to everyone, we end up with nothing left for ourselves or for the people who truly matter. It's like trying to fill a cup with water, only to pour that water into an endless number of glasses, never replenishing your own. At some point, you will run dry. We also need to remember that not everyone will understand you the way you deserve to be understood. People bring their own baggage, their own life experiences, and their own biases into relationships. And sometimes when you open up to someone who hasn't earned your trust or hasn't shown that they can hold space for you, you risk misunderstanding, you risk them interpreting your vulnerability as a weakness rather than the strength it is. You risk them projecting their own issues or insecurities onto you, and when that happens, you're not being met with the kind of compassion or empathy you need, and you end up feeling more isolated than ever before. It's important to surround yourself with people who can receive your truth with love, people who see you for who you are, not who they want you to be. These are the people who will hold your heart gently, who will honor your boundaries, who will lift you up when you're down, and who will stand by you even when you make mistakes. The right people will see your flaws and still love you for them. They will make space for your struggles and offer you grace. They will understand that your vulnerability is a gift, and they will treat it with the care and respect it deserves. It's easy to be swayed by the desire to please everyone, to be liked by everyone, or to give others what they want in order to feel accepted. But the truth is, you can't be everything to everyone, and you shouldn't try to be. The more you try to stretch yourself thin, the more you dilute your energy, and the less you can give to the relationships that truly matter. Your time, your attention, your heart, they are finite resources, and they should be reserved for people who understand their value. There's a certain freedom that comes with realizing this truth. When you understand that not everyone deserves access to you, you take back control of your emotional energy. You begin to create space for the relationships that nourish you, the relationships that challenge you to grow, the relationships that make you feel seen and heard for who you truly are. And just as importantly, you create space to be alone when you need to be, to reconnect with yourself, to restore your energy, and to remember that you are enough, just as you are. Protecting yourself doesn't mean you're shutting people out. It means you're choosing who gets to be close enough to truly know you, and that's something you should do with great intention. Because when you allow the right people in, when you share your life with those who are worthy of it, you create the opportunity for deep, lasting connection. You create the opportunity to be seen in your full humanity and to experience the kind of love, support, and understanding that nourishes your soul. So remember, you don't owe anyone access to your inner world. You don't have to explain yourself to those who don't understand you. You don't have to give pieces of yourself away to people who haven't shown that they can handle them with care. You are worthy of relationships that honor your boundaries and celebrate your true self. Choose wisely who gets access to your life, and trust that the right people will always meet you where you are, without expectation, without judgment, and with the deep love and respect you deserve. In the end, protecting your inner world isn't about building walls, it's about building wisdom. It's about knowing that your heart, your energy, and your truth are precious, and that you have the right to decide who gets to experience them. It's about creating boundaries that reflect your worth and preserving your peace in a world that can be overwhelming and demanding. Not everyone deserves access to you, and that is perfectly okay. You are not obligated to share your life, your energy, or your vulnerabilities with those who haven't earned the privilege of holding that space with you. When you choose to protect your inner world, you are choosing to honor yourself, to value your peace, your time, and your emotional well-being above the need to please others or seek validation from those who don't truly see you. As you move through life, remember that it's not about how many people know you, but how deeply those who do know you can connect with your true self. And when you make the conscious decision to guard your heart with love and discernment, you will find that the relationships that truly matter will flourish, and those that don't serve you will naturally fade away. So trust yourself, trust your intuition, and remember that you are worthy of relationships, love, and experiences that honor your soul. Protect your inner world with courage, with care, and with the understanding that by doing so, you are not only preserving your own peace, you are creating space for your greatest potential to unfold.